Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Art of the Dog. This is going to be the coolest week yet. Because you're used to seeing me do this show by myself or with one of my dog partners. I got a real partner this week. I got Justa Goodell. Justa Goodell not only is one of my best friends in the whole world, but she's also the most talented animal control officer you're ever going to meet. Justa is the animal control officer for Wyoming County here in New York. And I know this is going to be a little embarrassing for her, but I'm going to tell you this. I've been saying this for years. I've been working with Justa for well over 10 years, and she's probably the closest I've ever met to a real live angel.
Oh, gee.
Oh, and
yes.
It's the truth. So anyway, I attended Alfred University, a school down in the southern tier of New York, with Justa for an animal hoarding class. We took this class because we in Wyoming County and happening in other counties, we were running across incidents of animal hoarding. What's really cool about after we took the class, Justa took the football and ran with it. So she wound up becoming about the best animal control hoarding expert you're ever going to run across. So I'm taking advantage of it on The Art of the Dog and invited her to come and teach us a few things about animal hoarding, all the things we wanted to know. So I just wanted to let you guys know, if you got questions about animal hoarding, send them into either That Damn Dog or The Art of the Dog Facebook page, and we will get to your questions. If you think that you run across a hoarding incident going on and that you might want a little assistance or send the authorities to, don't hesitate to let us know. This is really a devastating situation for animals, and particularly dogs. But Justa and I, we went into a house one day that had 105 cats. And the house wasn't very big, so you can imagine what a disaster this is. So folks, let me introduce Justa Goodell, my good friend and animal hoarder expert. Thank you very much, Justa.
Well, thanks for asking me to come.
You're welcome. Yep. I'm so thrilled to have you here. And I'm not alone. This is really
No,
cool.
you're not. No, you're not.
So Justa, let me start with almost why did you take the football and run with it? I mean, we both went to the same class, and I work with a lot of dog situations that are sad and very unhealthy for the dogs. And I knew what direction I wanted to go. But I was always impressed that you took this hoarding thing seriously and that you've gone with it now for what, probably 5-6 years?
Yeah,
So
at least.
Tell us what you're doing with this.
Well, one of the reasons why I was so interested in taking the course was because I saw how devastating it was, not just to the animal, but to the environment and the people around the home or situation, and what it can do to a community. And then I realized, as I did more and more research, how much hoarding there really is, period. Just hoarding, period. Take the animal out. And in talking to firemen and people who are first responders, how often they go into a home and the hoard is so bad that they have trouble getting to the patient or the person that they're responding to. And that kind of drew me in. And then seeing the things we've seen in Wyoming County, the devastation for the animal was just overwhelming to me. And realizing more and more as I studied it that it was more a mental illness than it was a social problem, and the impact it has. For instance, if you go to a home that has 70 dogs, a small agency like mine, to bring those 70 dogs to the shelter is financially devastating to our shelter. Just to get the vet care and get them healthy again can be a phenomenal fee, not counting the food, the time, the wear and tear on a small little shelter like ours. So the impact is spread, rippling through our county. It can go right through a county. And the sad part is, if the people who are hoarding are not handled right in the system, I feel within a month or so they're hoarding again.
That's almost 100%.
100%,
right?
unless they received some kind of mental treatment and are given the some kind of maintenance on their life to make sure they're not hoarding again. So it has to be court ruled. It's almost 100%. Actually, it is 100% if they're not get treatment.
If you recall, the one incident that we handled was, I believe it was about 105 cats in the house. Mm-hmm. And I recall you speaking to the lady who did this, and you asked her why. What makes you motivated to collect 105 cats? And her answer, if I recall, was, I just loved them. Mm-hmm. And she really believed that she loved all these animals. Yeah. She didn't even know where they were. They were in the walls and in the ceilings, mm-hmm. and you couldn't even find them. Yeah. But she loved them. And there's a real tragedy to that story too. We found a dog in a box in the garage, and the dog was deceased. But the vet believed that maybe only a day before the dog was still alive. That expresses the amount of mental illness mm-hmm. you're dealing with, It gives exactly. you a helping hand here. But you and I have also had other incidents where in The Art of the Dog, we tell a story about 44 chihuahuas. Yeah. And one unfortunately was deceased, so it turned out to be 43 chihuahuas. But talk about how devastating that can be and how much work that can be. We brought all those dogs back to the shelter, and we had to triage them more than once. That means getting them in and out of the kennels and not getting mm-hmm. bit, but so that they could have veterinary care and they could go into the kennel and back out of the kennel again so that they could get grooming care. And if it weren't for the volunteers, how could we have done that?
No, we couldn't have.
It was beautiful. Channel 2 got involved in it, and they put the word out, and we did get some relief on that. Yeah. That the Wyoming County and even surrounding counties were very helpful. But you had your hands full.
I did.
I remember that one. Wow.
Yeah.
But it was successful.
It was. It was.
Not that we ever want to deal with it again. So what do you think we're going to do about just making people aware not to get themselves into such a jam? Is there something we can watch? Is there any programs that are proactive out there now?
I think for the public, if they think there's a hoarder, and numbers aren't always can't always be the main reason why you go. For instance, I've gone in homes where they've got 10, 12 dogs and they live better than most people. So the numbers, but then I've gone where there's 3 dogs and they live horrendously. So if out in the public, if you see something that you think might be fits the model of a hoarder, you turn it in and you let people go and knock on that door. How do we stop it? I'm not sure there is a way to stop it. Everyone has a free will to gather and keep things, hoarding, and I think it's becoming a bigger problem in society as we see more and more mental illness become more prevalent, and hoarding is one of those.
At what point do you cross the line where it's illegal? That's the hardest part, right? It's illegal to keep all these animals as long as it's not unsafe.
Right. When they crosses a line when egg and market laws are being completely forgotten. They have no vet care. They're not properly fed. Even the dead are not properly cared for when buried. We found them in freezers, in boxes that were months old when some of those hoarding cases we've been on. The legal system is starting to step up, but it has to get into a courtroom. And the egg and market law, the cruelty law, has to be enforced. And that's hard. It's hard to get. I mean, in today's world right now, there are people walking the streets who've committed horrendous crimes. To think that we're going to get somebody put in jail or follow through on something as much as having too many cats in their houses, it's a tough one right now.
I was listening to a radio station today. The program was about these dogs that are left outside in this frigid weather.
Yeah.
And is that illegal? And as far as the SPCA was concerned, no, it's not illegal, and you can't do anything about it. Where I live close to the reservation, and it breaks my heart when I drive through it and I see so many dogs on a chain with their little dog house, and they're sitting outside. Last night was a good example. It was only 5 degrees. And I can see the dogs sitting there shaking and shivering, and there's not a doggone thing you can do about it because it's not illegal unless you can prove it's illegal.
Right.
And more people get into trouble because one lady that they were talking about went and gave the dog a blanket. Well, the dog ate the blanket. And when it ingested the blanket, all of a sudden you needed major surgery. Who do you think was responsible for that? Well, the do-gooder, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you don't want to jump and be the savior
No.
because one, you're not going to get the law to back you up.
No.
You know, you screwed up.
Now, in Wyoming County, whether it's legal or not, I have a 20-minute rule. So if someone calls me and said, this dog is out with no shelter, on a lead, on a runner, with no place to go in the cold, and first thing I say is it just out going to the bathroom? And if it is, well, sometimes it takes the dog a few minutes. If it's out there all day, we've got a problem. So the ag and market law is clear. If you're going to keep your dog out for any length of time, it has to have proper housing. And that's not the back end of a dead truck that's in your yard. That's not a tarp you leaned and tied up against a pine tree hoping the wind will block it. That is a proper insulated house. And insulated in our area, because we're very rural, you can take a plain old dog house and stack hay or straw around it, bank it up, put it inside, and maybe put a flap so the dog can get completely out of the wind, put it against the backside, against where normally the wind blows, and at least give it a place where it can get dry, out of the wind, and create some warmth.
So it doesn't need a heater.
Doesn't need a heater.
Just needs hay. And
Right.
what if it doesn't have the tarp over the door or the hay? Is there still anything you can do?
Well, yes. Well, I have taken a few people to court for inhumane treatment.
Is that considered inhumane?
Yes, it is inhumane. Yeah.
Okay.
A doghouse needs to be big enough for the dog to enter it, lay down, and be able to twirl around from the tip of its tail to the tip of his nose. That big. So you don't put a Chihuahua in a calf hutch. But there are some breeds that should not be out. And when I go, I get really upset if I go out and I find almost a hairless dog, a 10-pound dog living outside. I just, you know, they've got garages, they've got sheds, they couldn't put it in. We just went out 2 weeks ago on the town of Perry with a little dog that was living on a cement brick steps. And the house was a hard plastic cat house. Like that you take your cat back and forth. It was a larger one, but you take your cat back and forth to the vet. It was not housing for the.
Yeah,
So
where I live is by the reservation, and they literally call them res dogs. It's commonplace out there to leave the dog with a dog house tied up, and that's it.
Yeah, that's its life.
And you can't do anything about it because one, it's the reservation.
Yep.
They have their own rules. And the res dog means this is what you're going to see,
Yeah.
and it's very sad. Very.
I would like to see in New York State a law that there's a no tie out law. Period. It would be wonderful. In our climate, we go from, for instance, yesterday it was below 0. Today it's 50. I mean, these animals have to adapt to that change, that fluctuation. Then you get into summer, you take a big black lab tied out with no shade. He's just sucking in that heat and that sun. It's got to be horrible on him. I would like to see that, but I don't know in my lifetime if it will happen. There have been states that have passed those laws, like the state of Texas passed one. You can't tie your dog outside in the state of Texas. There are, New Jersey is another one. I don't think you can tie your dog out. I could go, I didn't do the research on what states were, but New York isn't one of those states that has a law. That would be nice if we had that law.
Is there any chance that we can get a county ordinance, like Erie County, Wyoming County, Genesee County?
You know, I'm not sure how that would be enforced. Maybe.
Because it's all under agricultural law,
yeah.
which is state law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of all the many adventures that Justa and I have been on, and we've been on a bunch of them, one of our favorite memories is these two big black lab mixes. I don't know what they were mixed with Mastiff, but these were giant dogs. And they've been running for, at least 10 days, 15 days?
Yeah, 2 weeks at least.
And there was no catching them. They saw us, they avoided us, and they were out in the woods and they were taking care of themselves, but this wasn't good. It wasn't gonna last long. So Justa invited me to go out with her. Actually, we'd both gone individually out for a while. We finally ganged up on the two, went out by ourselves, and we had a ball because here's these two dogs looking at us and they wanted nothing to do with us except they kind of discounted the fact that Justa Goodell was determined to get these guys that day.
It was.
So we're sitting there and these dogs basically making fools out of us. But we caught them,
We did.
Remember how we did that? That was great. You
Yeah.
explain.
Well, I had been tracking them for about 2 weeks and kept Tom, and then he'd come up on his own and was looking, and he would see them. We set a live trap, but they wouldn't go in the trap for the food, so I started putting the food in bowls beside the traps so they could get more comfortable with the trap. Well, I would go up in the morning with my coffee and a sweet roll or something and sit in the car, and the weather was getting nicer and nicer, so finally I just sat by the food bowl eating, and sooner or later one got warmer and warmer to me, and I sat there one day and it put its head right under my elbow and lifted my elbow right up, and there's this face looking at me, and I'm like, well, you're a sweetheart, and I rubbed it. I thought, oh, I could have taken that dog, but the one that was more shyer was out in the field barking still in the cornfield, and I'm like, if I don't get both of them, I'm probably going to lose that one. They'll be so frightened with the other one gone. So I called Tom and I said, I'm close to getting them, but my two hands are not going to be able to get both of them. And I knew he knew what to do. So we got the one, and we opened that back of that truck up, and that dog jumped in so fast, and then the other one followed, remember?
Yeah, what happened was I was focused on the shyer one. Justa had the bolder one, and just, natural instinct, open the back door. What do you think the dog does? Hey, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So the big old dog jumps in, and I think the shyer one was ready to surrender. So it slipped a red leash on her, and she jumped in the truck like it was planned.
Yeah.
So it was really fun because we immediately, of course, named the two dogs. The bolder one we named Boulder, as in Colorado. And the other one we named Shy, because she was shy, we named her Cheyenne, as in Wyoming. And to this day, I believe they both kept those names.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it was kind of fun because we're driving back to the shelter, and we got these two big giant faces right behind us. We're going, are we safe?
Yeah, yeah. And we were celebrating at the same time, though.
Just as driving along, and we still can't believe we got these two maniacs.
Oh, it was just a miracle.
And they just kept looking at us going, yeah, we're good, we're safe. And
they turned out to be the nicest dogs.
they're very nice dogs, and they still are. They both had a great history.
Yeah.
But that goes to show you, how to work with these dogs. It's different every time.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of joy handling our animals, and fortunate for me, I'm working with the best.
No. I learned more from you to learn to be patient, because I would beat myself up when I couldn't bring a dog around. And I was trying too hard. I needed them to get to know me and me to get to know them, and the trust I had to learn to build. And that was something you taught me when you started coming in, that I needed to trust my instincts also. If I saw a good dog, even though he wasn't acting like a good dog, I needed to work with that. And I never wanted to give up on any dog. So it was, but I would give up too early and too quick, and I didn't believe that I could do it. And you taught me that I got to trust myself.
And I always go with the adage of, there's no reason for this dog to trust me if I don't trust him. Mm-hmm. And I got to work with some pretty scary dogs. I want to tell a quick story about a particular dog. Happened to be my favorite dog. It also happened to be my dog. But we used to use Carly. Carly was a mixed, well, I called her a black Weimaraner, but she was a lab, a Weimaraner. And we literally used to use Carly to claim dogs for us. What I'm trying to say is, we got this dog running around here for 3 days. We can't catch it. Let's go get Carly. So we'd actually let Carly out, say, Carly, go get that dog. And she'd look at me like I had antennas, and then she'd go get that dog. It was amazing.
Remember the one on Route 39, that little dog?
Yeah.
She brought that dog right in for us. And I'd been chasing it for a week.
And what she would do is she'd run up on a dog, and it was her energy, because as soon as she got to the dog would always lay down and go, okay, what do you want? We want to put a leash on you.
Yeah.
And we'd get away with it. But it was truly amazing to have a dog work for you with that kind of energy, wasn't it?
She was. I remember calling you on that one on Route 39 going into Pike.
Yeah.
And I said, can you bring Carly? And you let her go.
Yeah.
And that dog came right around. I had been chasing that dog for over a week. I don't know how many hours I spent trying to catch it.
She was an expert by then. I used her for so many other dogs. Carly, go get that dog. First of all, I can't believe she understands what the heck I'm talking to her, but go get that dog. So Justa, let's get into this hoarding a little bit here and talk to me.
Okay, well, just for the public's information, in the United States there's over 250,000 dogs trapped in hoarding situations. And there is probably not a community anywhere, I'm going to say in New York anyways, that does not have a hoarder. There is a hoarder near you, you just don't know it. And it can be, years ago, it used to be kind of the joke, the cat lady down the street. So everybody just assumed that's okay. All these animals that are in hoarding situations have very little, if no, vet care, generally are terminally sick or extremely sick. They generally are not fed properly. They live in horrific, dirty conditions. Some in crates that are barely bigger than they are to move around. Some are 2 and 3 in a pen. Some hang where they never touch the ground. We have collected dogs out of hoarding situations and we walked them out on the grass and they were freaking out because they'd never touched the grass before. So it is a horrific situation to see, and one to unpeel when you get in and start peeling back the layers of the neglect for these animals. It's just a tremendous tragedy. So they say that there's animal neglected or abused 1 every 60 seconds in the United States. I don't know, there's something like 50 or 100,000 puppy mills in the United States. So it is, and people, if they can make money, they are going to make money. They're going to breed sick dogs to another sick dog or inbreed them, and then you're going to buy a pet for so many hundreds of dollars and get it home and have trouble getting it to go to the bathroom outside or learn to do certain things that normal, healthy dogs do because they're inbred. So we deal with it all. I'm watching for hoarding all the time. Ironically, we had a situation that was, I could actually almost see the house from the front of our shelter. When it got turned in, that shows how much it's hidden. I drive by it 3 or 4 times a day and did not know what was going on. And they were bigger bully boxer type dogs. She was what I call a rescue hoarder. She would look for people on Craigslist or on private emails or private Facebook messaging for dogs of these type of breeds, boxer, bully boxer, or old English bulldogs, all that type of face and head. And she would go to their homes. She would pay money for them and say she was a rescuer, that she was going to rehome them. There were 30 dogs in an area that I wouldn't keep 5 in. And none of them were neutered or spayed. Some of them had horrific ulcers on their eyes. There were tumors. When I went there and told her we have a problem, she said, I couldn't do your job no matter what anybody paid me, because I watch TV and I see what hoarding situations look like. And she reached over and touched my arm and said, I just couldn't do what you do. So I reached back nicely on her arm and said, you know what you see on television? And she said, yeah. And I said, I'm seeing it right now. And it took her breath away that I would put her in that category. So it is everywhere. You just have to, when you stumble upon it, you're almost like overwhelmed by what you're seeing, because you just can't imagine your pet that sleeps in bed with you and you think the world of another dog just like that sitting out suffering somewhere in that kind of situation. So it does just put such an impact on the community.
So if you think you see something, say something.
Yes, if you see it, say something, and let people like us, don't go on a tyrant on Facebook, don't pound on their door, don't steal a dog thinking you're saving it, because you're going to get in trouble. Even though you're trying to do a good-hearted thing, it's against the law to do that. But there are people like myself, state police, Wyoming County, in our area, Wyoming County Sheriff's Department, when they see, get a call on a thin horse or an animal that there's concern over, or this hoarding thing that we've had turned in, we go in with force. It doesn't always mean we pull these dogs out of there. Often we do, but there are times when we give people a chance to correct it. And that's what I prefer to do, especially with the larger animals. A horse that's thin, we find out they're 300 pounds underweight, and because they didn't have food or their teeth have not been taken care of, so they're not, breaking their food down and they're not getting the benefit of what they're eating. And then we make them get a vet. We make them bring in a month's worth of food. We go back and we go back and we go back until it's either corrected because they do love the animal and got in over their head, or they rehome it. We help them find it a home. Of course, we don't have horses at our shelter, but I have a network of people. And if you deal with a dog control officer or animal control officer, either one, they know people who have these different animals, goats, chickens, rabbits. We know them out there, and we can often get them into foster environments when then they're rehomed from there. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. There's some things we have to tolerate and work with, but we do go out.
And that's important to remember. There are people out there to help. I'm always amazed at how many people in Wyoming County don't even know where the animal shelter is, and they don't know it exists. Not for it's anybody's fault. It's just that we're tucked away and we're not part of everybody's life. We actually are. And I try to advise people, this Wyoming County shelter is your shelter. Go by, get to know Justa, get to know the operation over there. But just please understand that there are a lot of people out there to help these situations. Take advantage of it. So we do a lot of talking about Wyoming County, but Justa wants you to know, this doesn't just stand for Wyoming County or Erie County or Western New York or what we refer to as the Southern Tier. This is everywhere. There's help out there.
If you're looking for your local shelter, you often can find it by just Googling it, your county. Every county or every town has to have a shelter.
If you're stuck in the state of California with a situation you do not know how to handle, or Washington State or Florida, it's all the same. We're there. Animal control officers are there to help you.
There are places out there that do the work just like mine, and we want to hook you up. If you're interested in rescuing or saving a dog, or you need help with something, I can help you find the proper place.
Let's share the number for the Wyoming County shelter if our listeners say, I have a problem, I need Justa.
Yep. So our shelter is located at 4380 Route 19. Our phone number is 585-786-8938. Or you can call the Wyoming County Sheriff's Department and they will hook you up with me. So we're out there, and there's a lot of good dog control officers out there doing my work. So.
Thank you, Justa.
Yeah, it's all right. Well, I had a great time doing this with you.
We're going to do this again sometime and talk about stories.
That's right. I would love that.
Okay. All right, thanks everybody for joining us on another episode of The Art of the Dog. We were blessed today to have Justa Goodell from the Wyoming County Animal Shelter with us. I hope you learned a lot, because I sure did. I learn every time I'm with Justa. We'll be glad to have her back again, but it helps if you guys request her a little bit. So we got a lot of stories to share and a lot to talk about. So we'll see her soon, and thanks again, guys.